Hi, welcome to another of our Success with People livecast sessions. So, today we are discussing this issue of fostering team success through collaborative ownership. Now, collaborative ownership is not a term that's widely used. As a matter of fact, I checked Google and I just don't see any use of it in the context, especially in the context that we're talking about in terms of working in teams, etc. So let me just spend 10 seconds here and discuss essentially what is this collaborative ownership as it relates to teams. And really, the intention really is to add depth to getting buy-in, add depth to working with, to get collaboration, add depth to engagement. So that's the whole idea. Is this whole package now that takes all the things that we know would enhance team dynamics and um, package that as collaborative ownership. The big difference here is that ownership um, suggests that the team members would have equity in what's going on, which means that the owners, the so-called owners then, which would be the team leaders and the leadership core, would divest some of that ownership and share the ownership with team members. So that's the concept. So it's a deepening of many of the areas that we have looked at when we are looking at team dynamics. So I'm Trevor E.S. Smith. I'm with the Success with People Academy, and I will be your host for the next 30 to 35 minutes. So please, we're not going to make you longer. And just asking you then to put away whatever it is that you're doing and just focus because this is an interesting development. Right? You might have seen the companion newsletter, but we're taking a different tack to this live class, looking at different aspects of this collaborative ownership as a means of fostering success in our teams. And so, one of the things then that we want to do here is to focus on the leaders and the leadership because that's where the whole thing starts. If you understand what we're saying about collaborative ownership, it means that team members have a stake, have well, I wouldn't say concrete status in terms of paper, but they feel that they own the processes. There's a collective responsibility that's there. Uh, there's a one for all for one, since. So that's where it starts. It starts with leaders then who are going to create this environment. And so, as we know, leaders actually shape culture in organizations. And so, if we are going to develop and engage with collective, collaborative ownership, we need to have leaders buy in and leaders drive the process from the top. Yeah. So that's basically what we're saying here that the leaders then must be the catalyst for this change that we are talking about. If we're going to have this new mindset, which definitely will impact the VEX issue of employee engagement, then the leaders must take a key role, a leading role. Right? So let's look at some things that need to happen, what leaders need to do, and then I'm going to share also some pillars, some barriers, some reasons why you might be challenged to have an environment that manifests collaborative ownership. The first thing that leaders need to do then is to set the vision. Yeah? do need, or your leaders need, to articulate a clear vision that people can buy in and get excited about as to where the organization is going and how we're going to get there. That's the first thing. Excite the team, excite team members about a future, share a vision of the future. That's exciting, that's interesting. Yeah. And that vision will then light the path. That's where we're going to do. We're going to know where we want to go, and we're buying into that. All right. So our destination is here, and this is where we are now. So these are the steps that we need to get there. All right. So the second thing that the leadership team needs to do is to work to create this collaborative environment. Not easy, but needs to be done. And so here's an important point. I want you to pause a little bit to listen to this. Not everybody comes forward when you ask for ideas, ask for suggestions. They keep quiet in meetings. This is a constant feature of life. That there are some behavioral styles, or there are some other reasons. People might have said, "Oh, I've been there, done that. I can't be bothered with this again." Okay, maybe this is for the younger people that are coming in, the newbies. If you just lead and just take on board information that is volunteered, you could have a problem. The only way that we can get collaborative ownership entrenched in your organization is that you have to proactively, you have to actively go and ferret out, flush out, pull out, extract input from all of your team members, or at least a representative portion. Please do not just focus on the persons who are readily putting up their hands. You need to go to those quiet ones. You need to create an environment in which people feel comfortable sharing. But your role is to pull it out some way or the other. You have to pull out information from those who are reluctant to share. All right. The other big thing is really about you as a leader. And that you have to be a model of shared ownership. What does that mean? One aspect of shared ownership is accountability. Yes. Collective responsibility also means individual accountability. And so you must own your errors. You must be willing to say, I messed up. It's my fault. I take responsibility. So those are some of the things that the leader must be willing to do if there's any chance that you could actually have collaborative ownership taking place in your organization. You must demonstrate all of those factors. You must be willing to collaborate. Yeah. So you might be someone who likes to be by yourself and just get the work done because it takes so much time, to have this meeting where we discuss the thing. I could just have drafted it myself. No. You have to have the patience to work through the system, because that's how people are going to understand this whole concept of collaborative ownership. They want to see you do the things that you are advocating. And it might take a little bit more time. It might require you to make yourself vulnerable, but that's the price that you have to pay if you want to have the wonderful benefits of collaborative ownership to drive success in your team. All right. The other thing would be that you have to trust the people. You have to trust your people. Yeah? When I say trust them, in terms of having them deliver what it is that they are supposed to deliver. Yeah, that's the kind of trust I'm talking about in this instance. Is that you have to believe that when you assign something to Trevor, that he's going to get it done. Yeah. One thing though that you need to look at is that if you're giving me things to do and you want the team to grow and develop as we go forward, then you also need to empower me. You need to give me some autonomy, but you also need to help me to develop. So that's the key now. Look at how much you can delegate. How can you empower people? How can you have a greater level of autonomy happening? I'm thinking, as I go through this, I'm thinking of a prize giving that I went to, Immaculate. And normally you have this MC that's talking about everything, calling up everybody, and you just sat in amazement that someone would just come, do what it is that they're supposed to do, move off. Somebody else just come, no announcements. That was a magical performance. So that's where that's the equivalent of what we would have now, is that parts just play. People just, it's like an orchestra. Just come in when you're supposed to come in, do your thing. That's the kind of thing that happens when collaborative ownership is fully entrenched. But it has to be, that people are empowered, but it has to be also people need to be equipped to do what it is that they're supposed to do. All right. So the fifth thing is to create this supportive environment. And the problem that we have sometimes is this, the silos. We're going to talk about that as a barrier. But the sort of no entry approach. We will also have that as a case where team members are not collaborating in the kind of way. There are obstacles to free flow of information. The people don't feel safe making a comment, and so everybody keeps quiet. And so one of the things that we have to do then is to provide encouragement, support. You're safe. Yeah? There are no foolish questions. When meetings are being facilitated, the team leader, whoever it is, or the meeting, whoever is convening the meeting, make sure that there's no abuse. There's, nobody laughs at a comment that might be astray, and people then feel encouraged to share their ideas. That's something that we need to look at. How do we support the team? How do we give them psychological safety, that they feel that they can talk, and that they feel that if I say something that's contrary to what I perceive the leader wants, then I might pay the price. One suggestion is that it might be best to come to the meeting and ask for suggestions before, for example, putting the proposal on the table and say, okay, here is a plan, and I want you to critique it or to give inputs. Sometimes people just have a perception that the leader wants what they want and just go with it. Easier to succeed, and grow, have your career be successful if you just go along with what the leaders want. That's a perception. And so the best thing to do is to try to get information before you show your hand. Just a thought. All right. So the sixth, and those of you who have been coming to these sessions know the importance, appreciate the importance of being able to identify and respect differences in behavioral styles. It's so critical. It's so critical when you speak to people in a behavioral language that they appreciate. that they can understand, that they can empathize with. Yeah, it's just think about it. If you're in a community, a group where you have to be kind of listening to a language and trying to interpret it into your own natural tongue, it's not so easy to have a bonding. It's not so trust issues can come in. I might misinterpret a word and have the completely wrong idea. So this thing of nuances, and that's one of the reasons why we have our discerning model of communication and leadership that helps people to be able to parse behaviors, if you want to call it that way, where we can actually drill down and understand why we're not to use certain words when we're communicating with somebody with this style. And if you want to get success, you need to speak in this kind of way. So if you deal with the trust issue through the eyes of a deeper understanding of behavioral styles, you can get to a place where, for example, feedback is given in a way, and that is where you should be coaching your people, training your people to give feedback in a way that lands well. And then you also want to coach your people to be able to receive feedback from a developmental perspective and not taking it personally. That's a big part of being able to have collaborative ownership manifested in your team. And that will then in terms foster success. So this is part of where we're going here now in terms of this open communication that we're talking about. All right. But in this sense now, so there are nuances in all of the steps. In this sense, we want to look at openness in the sense of challenging traditions, looking at things from a different perspective, not going along with conventional thinking, out of the box thinking. That's the kind of openness that I'm talking about here. Right? Yeah, so transparency and so on is there, but this really now is how do we invite unusual thoughts? People have a sense where they can actually share viewpoints that have never been discussed. We have never done it this way. It kind of, where did that come from? How do we create that kind of environment? And that's part of what collaborative ownership is about, is that we are willing to bring into the equity partnership, if you want to call it that, ideas that we might call strange ideas. That is going to create a pool of innovative ideas. It's going to spawn creativity that is going to help you to have a competitive edge with your team. That's a suggestion as well. Right. So we have ideas there. Let me do a quick flyback. Right. So the first thing we're saying is you need to set the vision. You need to paint a picture of where this team needs to go, where this organization needs to go, and paint it in an exciting, compelling way. Right. You need to work, and this is actively seek out feedback, different viewpoints. Try to make sure that people feel welcome, irrespective of their perspective. Right? Then you need to model what it is that you want. You need to own up to your errors. You need to spend the extra time to collaborate and to get feedback when you know that you could have done it in half the time. Or, so those are some of the things that you have to do. Then you need to trust the people to do what you're asking them to do. But you can only trust them to do what they're supposed to do if you empower them, if you equip them, if you train them, coach them to make them be able to deliver. Then you want to create this environment now where you remove these obstacles that people have, silos, all sorts of issues that stand in the way, while creating psychological safety. Make sure that when meetings are being led and discussions are being held, that people do not feel as if saying the wrong thing will cost them. Right? They will be embarrassed, or they will, pay the price afterwards. And of course, as we mentioned now, the behavioral styles speak to people in their preferred behavioral language. When you're giving them feedback, help them to receive your feedback in the context of their behavioral styles. And the open communication that we're speaking about here is not just transparency, it is the whole issue of challenging conventions, looking at things from a completely different perspective. Yeah. Okay. Pitfalls and barriers. All of that is nice. But at some point in time, you're going to run into some brick walls. And here are some of them. The first one is lack of clarity in the rules. So, Journal of Applied Psychology suggests that unclear rules, as you see here, and responsibilities can lead to frustration and decrease job satisfaction. So people say, okay, fine, I don't know what it is that I'm going to do, so let me step back. So if collaborative ownership is to be manifested in your team, it is critical that expectations of every single team member is clear, so that there is no confusion about it. Yeah, so that's the first thing. So metrics and all sorts of details then need to be put in place so that everybody knows exactly what is expected. That's important. The other difficulty, of course, and this is not easy to do, is to build trust. Because as the Journal of Management suggests, we need trust in order for collaborative ownership to be fully entrenched. But it's not so easy, because one of the things that comes with collaborative ownership is transparency and interdependence. Yeah. So we're there with one for all for one. So I need to know what's happening to you. You need to know what's happening to me. And yeah, it means some transparency. Maybe I need to be vulnerable. It's not as easy. It's not as easy. So that's something that you have to work hard at, so people feel comfortable. So they might have to grow into it, where again the manager is saying, okay, fine, I messed up, when he could really have covered it up. Then maybe I can do the same, especially since I saw situations with Mary. She messed up and she still has the job. We just rallied around her and fix it. If that's the kind of environment then maybe I don't have to hide my mistakes. That's where this goes. Then fear of accountability, of course. The Journal of Business Ethics says that the fear of accountability can hinder collaboration. Yeah. So you're asking me to jump in and work with you on this, and to take ownership of this task. Yeah. So you have equipped me. You have said to me, hey, Trevor, here it is. Are the tools? Are you clear? All right, Trevor, you're on your own. Nah, am I on my own? No. Suppose I mess up. I would prefer if you still own it, my boss, my team leader. We can work on this together. If anything happens, you are responsible, not me. So in many instances, then I will shirk. I will pull back. I'm not going to put up my hand to say, I can take charge of that. Leave that to me. That's part of what we need if we're going to have collaborative ownership, where I feel a need to reach beyond where I am now, take on new tasks, take on new responsibilities. But, oh my gosh, what if I fail? What if I, mess it up? That's part of what is happening there. So we have to encourage people to say, yes, you can come forward. We welcome you. You're volunteering. And we will take care of you. If you mess up, we'll sort it out with you. Unclear performance metrics. This is another one. This is sure highlights the importance of clear performance metrics. Yeah. So if you're moving towards this collaborative ownership process and environment, you need also, again, to have people to understand their KPIs, understand how they're going to be assessed, understand how performance is going to be managed and driven. Those are important things. And then I want to share some case studies with you before we start. One of them would be, look at it as a media enterprise where you had a lot of silos. This department can communicate with this. As a matter of fact, can't even enter the room, the department. And so they're saying, no, this is crazy, because it is inhibiting the flow of information, and collaboration wasn't taking place. So the strategy was to introduce collaborative ownership and break down a lot of the silos. So maybe even physically, where someone, for example, from sales couldn't just walk freely into editorial, that kind of situation was broken down. Yeah? So people could freely integrate, talk to each other, move around. And so as a result of that, communication improved, streamlined, processes were streamlined, and you could see morale boosted, and overall the entity benefited from it. The other one would be using collaborative ownership to elevate customer satisfaction. And this is a hotel resort, and they wanted to improve their customer satisfaction scores. And they're saying, let the departments, the various areas, let's just see if we can get them to work more closely. Let us see if we can pool their ideas. What's happening at the front desk? What's happening with the persons who are dealing with the rooms? What's happening with the parking lot, etc. Let's get everybody together to share some ideas. And as a result of that, there was a spike in customer satisfaction scores. So that's another way in which collaborative ownership takes place, where we engage everybody at all levels in the organization to say, I want to hear your input. How could we make customers feel more satisfied based on your interaction with them? That's a powerful way. And these are use cases that you can actually adapt to your environment. The other one that I'm sure is an advertising agency who wanted to increase their creativity. And so one of the things that they did then was to have more brainstorming sessions where you're bringing in different persons. So you're bringing in the art, the graphic areas, you're bringing in the content writers, all of that. So those persons who are facing the customer. And so they actually set up then a digital platform for where ideas could be shared easily, right? And of course, there was a surge in innovative ideas. Yeah. So that's a wrap on what we're talking about. Just want to share again, last call. Okay. So if you're just seeing this for the first time, or if you have been trying to get the team together to say, hey, we have this opportunity, well, that's it. Those are no one else is going to be allowed after, let us say, a week from now. Right? And what it is that I'm offering to have a live session like this where you can interact a lot more, like on Zoom, where you can actually have conversations freely on any issue related to your team. All right. So no cost, there's no cost. Just send me an email, info@successwithpeople.org, and we will set up a time and have it done. Right. It's likely to be 45 minutes to an hour, where we actually look at an issue that is important to you. It could be questions that you have about bringing collaborative ownership into your team, or any of the other things. There's a lot of things related to authentic leadership, conflict management, several different areas that we have looked at. And speaking of that, you could actually um, get access to these live casts on our YouTube channel, Extended Disc Solutions. That's it. If you go to YouTube, Extended Disc Solutions, it's there. Also, some of them will be available on LinkedIn in our Leadership DNA Club. Just this Leadership DNA Club is not one of the advertising billboards. This is something that consistently has high quality information. So you can just click ask to be let in. We don't let in everybody. And you will get access to rich content. So it's the Leadership DNA Club, and it's on LinkedIn. All right. So who are we? We are part of the InfoServe Group, Success with People Academy, and we deploy the discerning communication model. And basically, we provide support to promote the growth of individuals, teams, and organizations. And we are franchise holders for Extended Disc, through which we provide granular behavioral DNA assessments on the Revolutionary Things platform. Where we again, info at, so where can you find us? Sorry. Info at successwithpeople.org, and we are the Success with People Academy. We are also SHRM recertification providers, which means that when we give out professional development credits, those credits can be applied to recertify individuals who have either SHRM CP or SHRM SCP certifications. What that really means, though, is that we operate at high international standards. So let's talk about how we can accelerate growth in your team. Info at successwithpeople.org. I'm Trevor E.S. Smith. Thank you for your time.